Hello, good morning everyone. How's everyone doing? Hope you're all keeping safe and well. Now, before we actually kick off with this webinar session, if anybody's having any sort of technical difficulty, feel free to kind of reload this page back up. Just make sure that you're able to kind of see me, you're able to kind of see this slides, which is titled Find Your Career Goals. And hopefully make sure you have kind of a pen and paper on hand. Just kind of jot down some notes as well. So welcome to this Google Digital Garage webinar session, all about how you can find your career goals. My name is Rikesh and I'm going to be a webinar presenter taking you through the course of today's session, which is going to last for approximately 60 minutes. So a little bit about me first. I am a trainer for Google's digital skills program, Google Digital Garage. I'm also a digital marketer. So what that means is I work with businesses to help them to create and to grow their own online presence. Now, before I was a digital marketer, I used to have a previous career, which was that I was a lawyer, I was a solicitor. And I actually used some of the methods and techniques that we're actually going to be going through in this webinar session to help me to kind of transfer a lot of my skills into a completely different career in itself as well. So this session in particular is something which is kind of sort of near and dear to my heart in particular as well. That's kind of just a little bit about me. I'd also like to introduce to you at this stage my colleague and fellow Google Digital Garage trainer, and that is the wonderful Annie. Now, Annie is going to be our chat moderator. So you will see Annie on the live chat, which is just on kind of should be kind of on the right-hand side of your screen. So feel free to use that live chat box to kind of get involved as we sort of progress throughout the course of this webinar session. I know some of you have already been getting involved. We've got Maisie tuning in. So welcome to you and to everybody else who is tuning into this Google Digital Garage webinar session. So this webinar session in itself is going to be very interactive. So there's going to be a lot of times when I'm going to be asking questions to you, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback, because we all tend to have kind of different experiences, especially when it comes to a topic such as careers. We've all kind of gone through different experiences. So there'll be a lot of questions that I'll be kind of throwing to you, but also the live chat is also going to be your opportunity to kind of ask me questions as well. So feel free to kind of get really involved in this webinar session. And also, as I mentioned just a moment or so ago, have a pen and paper in hand just to kind of jot down some notes, especially as we're going to be going through some exercises as well. So feel free to kind of do that as we progress along the course of this webinar session. And speaking of this webinar session, we are excited to be delivering this webinar in partnership with Founders for Schools today, and we welcome all the guests that they've invited to join this Google Digital Garage training. I'll now read out a short introduction on behalf of Founders for Schools before we start. So Founders for Schools was set up to help educators prepare young people aged 16 to 24 to gain insight into the evolving careers that are and will be available to them, to help guide subject area choices relevant to particular sectors, to help close the gender gap in particular industries, and to ensure the economy can rely on the emerging talent and skill sets much needed to our future workforce. So I really hope that you do find this webinar session of use, and you can take a lot of this information away and kind of implement a lot of kind of these practical steps that we're going to be going through throughout the course of this webinar session when it comes to your own kind of careers journey as well. Now, the session that we're running today on Find Your Career Goals is one of many webinar sessions that we run on many webinar sessions, such as other sessions such as relating to kind of CV and cover letter writing as well. Now you can actually access further Google Digital Garage webinars using the Google Digital Garage website. I believe a link to that will be posted by Annie into the live chat for you. And when you do visit the Google Digital Garage website, have a look at the upcoming schedule of webinars. Some webinars might be more useful than others for you to attend. And one thing to remember is these webinar sessions that you'll see on the Google Digital Garage website are available for you to attend at no charge as well. Now, another fantastic resource to have a look at on the Google Digital Garage website is the online courses section. So you'll actually see on the online courses webpage, the part of that on the Google Digital Garage website, you'll see lots of different online courses provided by Google at no charge, and you can complete a lot of these courses in your own time and at your own pace. Now, there's a particular online course that I'd highly recommend to many of you, and it's called the Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course. Now, the reason why I recommend that is not only will give you kind of a kind of holistic overview as to how marketing online works, whether you are kind of planning to set up your own business or work for an organization. But at the end of that particular course, once you complete it, you'll actually receive a certificate from Google recognizing that achievement as well. So it's always kind of nice to kind of receive that recognition as well. So feel free to check that out when you do get a moment. But without further ado now, let's look at what we're covering in today's webinar session, all about how you can find your career goals. So throughout the course of this webinar session, first and foremost, we're actually going to be looking at our purpose. I think it's really important to kind of start off with looking at our purpose, because we kind of want to take things back to basics and explore why do we work, and kind of push past the point of the obvious of we're working kind of to gain money, to get an income, and actually look at not just kind of a job from a job aspect, but from a kind of a long-term career aspect as well. So we're going to be just briefly exploring that. And once we've done that, that will nicely kind of feed into an approach or a framework for another term as to how you can go about creating and finding your own kind of either career goal or actually finding your kind of most fulfilling job. So we'll actually kind of explore this framework throughout the course of this webinar session, and hopefully by the end of the hour that we do have together, you'll be able to kind of take away a lot of kind of steps, either through some of the exercises that we're actually going to be running throughout the course of this webinar session. Some on kind of one of the exercises that I'll explain a little bit later, which you will need the assistance of somebody else to help you out with. That will hopefully kind of steer you on the right lines as to kind of finding that that kind of fulfilling career, and specifically also kind of finding that fulfilling job role as well. And that will kind of feed into kind of a few kind of practical steps and a few kind of tools and resources as to what you can sort of walk away with at the end of this webinar session. So it's really about kind of the practical aspect here. So it's not just about kind of me talking for kind of the hour. It's more about kind of us kind of having that kind of general discussion. As I mentioned, we all kind of come at different angles when it comes to careers. We've all had kind of different experiences there as well. Now, with that in mind, I want to kind of start off by asking you this question. I want you to kind of think back to when you felt most fulfilled by either a previous job or a previous kind of volunteering activity or a task. Now, if you have maybe limited working experience, then I want you to kind of cast your minds back to maybe some project work that you did throughout the course of kind of school, college, university days. Maybe you worked kind of coursework with others. And I want you to kind of think about a time when you felt fulfilled. Now, this term of fulfilled is really kind of, the way that I can kind of sum this up is when you kind of perform this task or you do this part of your job, or you've done it in the past, if it's something that you did previously, is it kind of leaves a bit like it kind of leaves you with a warm, fuzzy feeling. You feel really nice. It puts like a really nice smile on your face. So that's what I mean by kind of a fulfilling kind of job, kind of a task within a fulfilling job, or kind of an activity or a task that you completed in general. So whilst you're kind of thinking of that, feel free to kind of share in the live chat. I'd love to kind of hear some of your times when you felt really fulfilled by something. It's only kind of fair if I kind of share one of mine. So one of the times that I felt really fulfilled was when I was actually presenting a session to a group of people who were learning how to code, so to kind of create kind of websites and that kind of thing. Now, that was a whole day kind of workshop that we ran. Now, at the end of that session, I had a lot of kind of feedback from everybody saying they really enjoyed it. It was great to kind of go from kind of no knowledge to kind of having actual knowledge and practical steps that they can take forward. And something which kind of really left me feeling even more fulfilled was actually a couple of weeks later, I actually had one of the attendees send me a message out of the blue, saying thank you for the session, but also saying thank you for kind of taking the time to kind of have a conversation with him, especially because he's looking to work within that coding field. And he let me know that off the back of that, he managed to actually create a website, and through that website creation, he was able to kind of create this website which kind of turned his CV kind of interactive. And that actually helped him to land 2 job interviews. And that's something that really kind of left me with a warm, fuzzy feeling that I might have helped with that kind of process with him. Maybe might just been kind of a confidence issue, but that's something that really kind of touched me, left me kind of feeling fulfilled. So let me know some of your kind of fulfilling moments that you've had, either in something that you do currently, or whether it's kind of something from kind of your studies as well. Now you might be wondering, Rukesh, why are we kind of talking about feeling fulfilled in a job role or kind of in our career in general? Well, the reason why I wanted to kind of discuss that is because of this statistic that you can see on screen here, which is that 3 out of 10 workers in the UK do not believe that they have good prospects for career developments. And that's something that actually makes me a little bit sad, because I want that figure to be either like 1 out of 10 workers or to not be a statistic at all, and everybody kind of having that having that feeling where they feel that they can kind of progress in general. And it's really important to keep this in mind, that we want to have that kind of sense of progression, that sense of development in any job role that we kind of go into, especially considering the fact that we actually spend a lot of our times working, whether it be kind of going to a specific business premises, or as is the case, or more of a kind of the common case at the moment, where a lot more of us actually working from home, we are still working at the end of the day, is the fact that we spend pretty much a third of our lives working. And that's a huge section of our proportion of our lives that we're actually doing this particular task of working. So we want to make sure that we've got good prospects, that we're enjoying it, right? I believe kind of another third of our lives we actually spend sleeping, and then I believe another third of our lives we probably, if you're anything like me, probably spend watching too much television, perhaps as well. But we want to kind of get to a stage where we kind of fall into this. At the moment, we kind of want to make sure that we're falling into the 7 out of 10 workers in the UK that do believe that they have good prospects for career development. So how do we actually go about doing that? Well, before we kind of go into the actual framework, I just want to kind of read out kind of one of the fulfilling kind of reasons, or kind of the fulfilling times from Maisie in the live chat, who's mentioned, I was most fulfilled when I completely finished a major project and was given good feedback. Yeah, that's really important. It's kind of nice to kind of get that sense of recognition, something that we'll actually touch upon in just a few moments as well, Maisie. So it's really great to kind of get that, because it's nice when we do something, but then we're getting kind of that pat on the back from somebody, because sometimes we can get into our own mind and we kind of consume ourselves and think, oh, this is not a big deal. Whereas other people think, wow, that's incredible, especially if you're kind of getting that kind of feedback loop coming in as well. So thank you very much for that, Maisie, and feel free to kind of drop your feedbacks into some of those kind of fulfilling moments for yourself as we progress along as well. So with that in mind, how do we actually make sure that we are in that kind of 7 out of 10 bracket when it comes to this statistic? Well, we want to make sure that we actually find a fulfilling job role, or on a wider scale, make sure that we're actually entering into a fulfilling career. So with that in mind, I want to introduce you to a framework that we're going to be using for the remainder of this webinar session. And it actually begins with 3 elements. The first element is this kind of circle representation, which is something that you enjoy doing. So this is something that you find kind of genuine pleasure in doing, right? Now, the second element of any kind of fulfilling job role in particular is something that you're good at. So something that actually plays to your kind of natural strengths, right? And then the final element that makes up kind of a fulfilling job role is something that people value. Now, something that people value is something that there's a market for. And if there's a market for it, something that people will pay you to do, right? So we want to have kind of elements of all 3 of these. So just to kind of provide a little bit of context here. So if it's kind of, if it's only something that you enjoy doing, it's probably just classed as a bit of fun. So for me, I like to kind of do a little bit of video gaming. For me, it's just a little bit of fun. I'm not particularly good at it, by the way, so I don't kind of fall into that skilled hobby bracket. But if it is something that you enjoy doing and something that you're good at, it could be kind of a hybrid, a little bit like you can see on screen here as kind of a skilled hobby, this kind of overlap here. Now, if it's something that you're good at, but you don't particularly enjoy doing, and you're not necessarily getting paid for it, then that is possibly just a practice chore. So something like, for me, which is probably a practice chore, is putting dishes into the dishwasher. As lazy as that probably sounds, that's probably for me a practice chore. Now, if it's something that you're getting paid for, but you don't particularly enjoy doing it, and you're not particularly good at it, then it could possibly mean that it's not for you. Now, it's not a guarantee with all of these kind of elements here on screen. But it could be an indicator with all of these. Now, if it's something that you enjoy doing and something that you get paid for, but you're not particularly good at it, that could possibly mean that you are maybe in a low-skilled job. And then you can see kind of that final overlap here. If it's something that you're good at and you're getting paid for it, however, you don't particularly enjoy doing it, it could be a possible sign that you might be in a boring job or something that doesn't really kind of give you that zest to continue and to develop within that particular career or that particular job role itself. So by that process of elimination there, I'm sure you might have kind of gathered, we kind of want to make sure that when it comes to any kind of job role that we want to kind of land, or even kind of set up a business as well, if that's something of interest to us, we want to make sure that we're in this middle spot, which is kind of empty here. So we have an overlap of all three, which is here, which is something that you enjoy doing, something that you're good at, something that is that plays to your strengths, and something that people value. So something that there's a market for out there, and that people will be willing to pay you for it. Now, this kind of Venn diagram that you can see on screen here is actually based upon the Japanese practice of something called ikigai. Now, this Japanese practice is kind of a framework that is used in Japan to help people to kind of identify their purpose in life. So we've actually kind of molded and adapted that for the purposes of kind of career and kind of jobs here as well. And we're going to be kind of identifying, kind of dissecting each element of these kind of circles that you can see on screen here, because it's really important to go through each one of these circles in turn. And we're going to be running kind of activities and kind of exercises that I'd love for you to get involved in throughout the course throughout the remainder of this webinar session. And then hopefully by the end of this webinar session, we'll be kind of more aware as to each one of these elements, something that you enjoy doing, something that you're good at, and something that people value. Because once we have those three elements in play, then we can kind of use that as our guiding point for any kind of job roles that we're applying for, or kind of any business ideas that we might have as well. But before we actually go into them, I want to kind of ask you this question here, and let me know your answer in the live chat to this question. What is the top motivator at work? So let me know in the live chat what that could be. Now, before you kind of start typing away into the live chat, probably your common answer that you're just about to type, or you're just about to hit send on, is money. Now, that's probably the most obvious answer and probably one of the most correct answers, to be fair, to this. Now, I kind of want to make this a little bit more challenging here, and I want to take the answer of money off the table here for you. So let's say we have enough money for kind of the bare essentials for us, which is kind of for food, for water, for shelter, just kind of the bare minimum of what we kind of need to kind of survive. Now, once we've gone past that stage, what is then the top motivator for working? So what then kind of drives us to kind of continue working? So let me know in the live chat, because I truly believe that everybody kind of has different kind of answers to each one of these in turn. So let me know in the live chat what that might be, what's something that kind of gets you out of bed to do a particular task, or to work in a particular job role, or in a kind of a future job role in general as well, because it's really important to kind of go through this. As I kind of mentioned, this kind of first part of this webinar session is this kind of really going through that purpose aspect and really kind of identifying what is the main kind of driving force behind us working in general. If we kind of take money off the table, what is it after that in general as well? So Maisie's mentioned job satisfaction. Yeah, I think job satisfaction is absolutely important. I think it's really kind of critical when it comes to making sure that we are able to actually kind of leave work at the end of the day, whether we are working from home or whether we are kind of working somewhere else, that we kind of feel like, yes, job well done, Rikesh, or job well done, Maisie, right? We kind of want that kind of sense of satisfaction there as well. Kira has mentioned helping others as well. Yeah, fantastic. I think it's a really great motivating factor as well. And you can actually see that we all have different driving forces for ourselves as well, which is really important. Maisie's also mentioned kind of learning more, kind of gaining more knowledge. I think it's fantastic as well. So thank you very much for getting involved with that kind of question there. Now, if I kind of reveal the top motivating factor of work, and it kind of feeds into what was mentioned there by kind of the likes of Maisie and Kira in the live chat, is the fact that the top motivator at work is recognition of work. So we like to have that kind of that pat on the back, that people say, yes, you know, I feel really fulfilled by a particular kind of job role. A little bit like when Maisie mentioned that when they completely finished a major project, they were given good feedback. So it's nice to kind of have that feedback loop from people to say, yes, job well done. So that can be a key driving force, but there's also other aspects, as we kind of discussed, the likes of kind of job satisfaction, helping others. There's a lot of kind of factors at play here, but the one key kind of mindset to kind of get into is, let's kind of take the obvious off the table, which is money, and look beyond that, because that's something that's going to help us going forward when it comes to us, helping us to kind of identify and find our career goals. Thank you very much for getting involved with that. Now, before we kind of go into the first element, which is something that we enjoy doing of this kind of framework that we're exploring here, I just want to kind of check in to see if there's any questions from you at the moment. Okie doke. So I can't see any questions from you at the moment. So if there are, pop them into the live chat, and Annie will kindly feed them back to me. And I'd love to kind of read some of your comments, your questions out as we progress along. Now, let's actually have a look at the first part, or the first element of this framework, which is something that you enjoy doing. So something that you find pleasure in general. So with that in mind, I hope that you've got your pen and paper at hand, because we are now going to go into a short exercise here. So have a pen and paper at hand, or if you're anything like me and have not used proper pen and paper for a very long time and are kind of digitally minded, feel free to use whichever note-taking device that you might have to hand as well. So with that in mind, I want you to kind of draw a line straight down the middle of your page. So you've got two columns. You've got left column, you've got right column. Now, let's focus on the left column first and foremost. I want you to kind of pick out pick out phrases from a list of 8 phrases that I'm just about to show you, and pick out from this list things that you enjoy about working. So this is things that you enjoy about working. It's not about things that you have done previously. We'll come on to that later. It's more things about that you enjoy about work. So these are kind of the 8 phrases, and I want you to pick at least 3 from these. So what do you enjoy about work? And do you enjoy having secure and stable work? Do you enjoy having ideas? Do you enjoy helping others, working independently, having work-life balance, being an expert, organizing people, solving problems? You can actually see here as well that helping others was something that was mentioned by Kira earlier on when we're talking about kind of top motivators for working there. So you can actually see a lot of these top motivating kind of factors that we looked at with that question earlier on is something which kind of feeds into this as well. So write down, just make kind of a note of 3. So for me, things that I enjoy about work out of the list of 8 here, I enjoy pretty much a lot of these, but if I was to kind of narrow this down to just kind of a handful, it'd probably be I enjoy secure and stable work, I enjoy helping others, working independently, having work-life balance, I enjoy solving problems as well. So that just keep kind of be my handful there. Probably I think I picked about 5 or kind of 6 potentially there as well. So hopefully you've kind of got a list of them on your left-hand column. Now, once we've actually done that, I want us to kind of move on to kind of progress on a little bit here. And I want you to now rank your top 3. So the top 3 things that you enjoy about work, with number 1 being the thing that you enjoy about work the most. So I'll show you these phrases again. And just kind of put kind of a little 1, a 2, and a 3 beside each one, kind of ranking them in your particular order as well. And let me know in the live chat what your top 3 is, because everybody's top 3 is always different. And that's what, and that kind of feeds into what we kind of have been discussing throughout the course of this session so far, which is that everybody has different experiences when it comes to our career. So so let me know in the live chat what your top 3 would be. So for me, just kind of selecting my top 3. In number 3, it would be working independently. I enjoy that. Number 2 would be I enjoy a work-life balance. And number 1, the thing that I enjoy most about working is actually helping others. That's something which I really enjoy. So that's kind of my top 3. So feel free to kind of share yours into the live chat. And I'd love to kind of read some of yours out as we go along. So with that in mind, hope you've kind of got your top 3 list on that left-hand column. Now, let's actually switch attention to the right-hand column. Now, I want you to pick from the same list of 8 phrases. But this time, I want you to kind of pick out the phrases which correlates to things that you have done previously in previous job roles. If you don't necessarily have that much work experience, feel free to kind of lean on any kind of experience academically as well when you kind of worked on projects, or it could even be kind of any kind of work that you're currently doing as well. So just kind of pick out things, not necessarily kind of things that you enjoy, but just things that you've kind of been exposed to. So have you had secure and stable work? Have you been working in a role which has required you to kind of have ideas and help others work independently? You have that work-life balance, being an expert, organizing people, and problem solving as well. So feel free to kind of make a note of all as many as possible. You might feel that you might want to write down all 8 because you've had exposure to them all. I believe just kind of glancing at all of them for myself, I believe I've kind of had elements of these, whether it be in my current kind of working situation, or whether it be in previous job roles. I've kind of been exposed to many of these kind of phrases that you can see on screen here. So once you've kind of done that, you can actually see that you've got 2 separate lists. So on the left-hand side, you've got a list of phrases of things that you enjoy about working. Now on the right-hand side, you've got a list of phrases that you've either done previously or that you do currently in a job role. Now, I want you to now compare the list between the 2. So are there kind of a lot of kind of discrepancies between them? So are there, on the left-hand column, are there kind of things that you enjoy about work a lot? And then on the right-hand column, that the actual things that you've done in your job role don't necessarily match up with that. That could be kind of an indicator to think, right, well, if there's not that much discrepancy between the two columns, then that could possibly mean that you might want to maybe look at other particular roles, or taking on additional tasks or other tasks as part of your current role that you might have, perhaps. Or if you're looking to kind of get into a particular industry, you might think, well, okay, the previous work that I've done doesn't necessarily correlate to what I enjoy doing. So maybe I want to kind of make sure that I deliberately kind of seek out those opportunities that will allow me to kind of have that work-life balance, that will allow me to kind of work independently, help others, have ideas, whatever yours might be as well. So it's a really kind of great kind of barometer more than anything else. And you can kind of perform this exercise. You can actually perform this exercise on kind of a maybe an annual basis, or a semi-annual basis perhaps as well, because I think it's really important to kind of always check in every so often to make sure that the position that you're in, or the career trajectory that you are currently on, is in keeping and in line with something that you enjoy doing about work specifically as well. Okie doke. So let's have a look at some questions and some of your top 3s here. So let's have a look. So we've got the F4S community team here who've mentioned, if I kind of work it backwards and kind of build up the anticipation. So the thing that they enjoy, 3rd is work-life balance. Number 2 is solving problems. And number 1 is helping others. Yeah, fantastic. That's Maisie has mentioned Number 3 is social aspects with colleagues. Yeah, I think that's really important. You mentioned, could I add one extra that isn't listed? Of course, yeah, you could kind of tag an extra one on there. I think that's really important, that kind of social element as well, with kind of colleagues and co-workers, especially kind of the times that we've all been kind of living through. It's very important to kind of have that kind of camaraderie at times as well. So that's fantastic as well. As number 2, you've mentioned solving problems as well, and then number 1, you've mentioned secure and stable work. Yeah, so absolutely. So we can actually see by some of those examples there from the likes of Maisie and the FRS community team there, that it's very important to evaluate the things that we enjoy about working the most, because we're all different. So the job roles that we're going to be applying for are not going to be the same ones. The careers that we're all going to be going through, that we're all going to be applying for, are not going to be the same as well. So that kind of ticks off the first kind of element of finding that fulfilling job role or career there. Now let's actually switch gears and actually move on to the second element here. And as with kind of as I mentioned kind of earlier on, if you've got any questions, pop them into the live chat. I'd love to kind of read out and go through some of yours as we kind of progress throughout the remainder of this session. So element 2, which is something that you are good at, something that kind of plays to your natural strengths here. Now, what's typically going to be our natural kind of thinking here? If I was to say to you, right, Annie, Maisie, can you let me know something that you're good at? Naturally, we think, right, well, let me ask my brain, what am I good at? what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? So that's our kind of default position. We kind of go internally and ask ourselves. Now, with that in mind, like kind of bearing that in mind, I would like to kind of introduce you to something which is known as the Dunning-Krueger effect, which is a social psychology experiment that was ran. And through this Dunning-Krueger effect, what it essentially describes and what it kind of found was that humans are notoriously awful at knowing what we are good at and what we're not good at. So that kind of theory there of going internally and asking ourselves might not necessarily be the best solution there. So what the Dunning-Krueger effect looked at was how our perception of our abilities change as we kind of gain more experience. So if we kind of look at this with kind of a working example here, so let's say for instance that we've never done karaoke, we've never sang karaoke before. For me, that's a lie, because I've done it probably way too many times and I'm still not getting any better at it, by the way. But let's kind of imagine that we've never sang karaoke before. If we kind of look at this this kind of graph here on screen, you can actually see on kind of the vertical axis, we've got a confidence kind of level here. And then on the horizontal axis, you can see we've got competence level. So how good are we at singing karaoke? Now you can actually see that the red dot is kind of in the bottom corner, joining both of these kind of axes on the graph here. So because we've never sang karaoke before, our competence level is a big fat 0, and our confidence level is at a 0 as well, because we've never sang. So it's kind of the unknown for us as well. So we don't really have any confidence. Now, if we actually progress things along here, let's say that we go to a karaoke evening, and we get given the microphone, and they're like, right, Rikesh, pick your song, let's sing. So I sing karaoke, and once we've kind of sang karaoke, what has happened is, as you can see with this red dot here on the graph, is that our confidence level shoots up really high. Now, the one thing that you might have noticed here is that despite our confidence level shooting up really high, our competence level, so our skill level, has only moved along and kind of progressed along a little bit. Now, the reason for that is kind of explained by Dunning-Krueger here, is that at this stage, we tend to kind of think that we're amazing, because we've kind of pushed past that kind of fear or that kind of challenge barrier that we might have had, because it's kind of the unknown. We've not done it before, so we don't have any confidence. But when we do something for the first time, we kind of think we're amazing at it. So if you kind of think back to a time, maybe if you've kind of learned to play the guitar before, maybe you learned to kind of to do a chord change, or maybe you learn how to do a simple sum on a spreadsheet, and you think, wow, this is amazing. I didn't think it was this easy to do. So our confidence level really kind of spikes as well. I know recently I actually went go-karting. And after the first time doing that, I thought, wow, this is amazing. I'm actually pretty decent at it. So the confidence level actually spikes up. Now, Dunning-Kruger really kind of describes here how we tend to overestimate our abilities because we've only done something for the first time at this stage, rather than actually doing this over a period of time and actually building our competence level. So this is really important to kind of to be mindful of, that we can overestimate how good we are at something. Now, if we actually progress this on a little bit further, so let's say that we've now actually done a little bit of singing. We've actually kind of been on a few more karaoke evenings out. We've maybe taken a few singing lessons, and we're taking this a little bit more seriously, right? Now, you can actually see that the red dot has actually progressed to that kind of middle level, which is that we have average competence. So we're kind of semi-decent at singing karaoke. However, one thing that you will know is that our confidence level actually drops here. So with our confidence level dropping at this stage, you'd naturally be thinking, well, if our competence level, our skill level increases, that the graph would actually be taking a straight kind of diagonal trajectory, that our confidence level will match that. And that's not necessarily the case. And Dunning-Kruger here actually explains that at this stage, when we kind of take things a little bit further and we're kind of in that process of learning a particular skill even more, that we tend to underestimate our abilities. So this is not necessarily a case of false modesty, whereby somebody says to you, you know, Rikesh, you're really good at singing, and I'm just thinking, no, I'm not really good. I'm just saying it, but then inside I'm thinking, yes, I'm amazing. I should be headlining Glastonbury. It's not that kind of false modesty there. It's more of a case of we're actually looking forward as opposed to looking back at where we come from. We're actually looking forward as to how much further we need to go to become an expert. So this is where we tend to kind of underestimate our abilities. So you can actually see how we have that kind of transition between kind of the 2 points in times with our skill levels, where at points we tend to overestimate how good we are at a particular skill, and then at points we tend to underestimate how good we are at a skill as well. Now, if I take this on to kind of the conclusion here of this particular graph, where we become an expert. So we've actually now done a lot more. We've maybe done a few kind of, we might have done kind of a few shows, a few kind of festivals maybe, and we've kind of really kind of got to that expert level stage. Now you can see that there has been a rise in our confidence level. And the one thing to kind of bear in mind with our kind of rise in our confidence level is that when we get to this kind of expert stage, this is when we can make more of an accurate call and more of an accurate kind of judgment call as to what we are good at and what we're not necessarily good at in particular as well. But in order to get there, we have to go through the journey. We have to go through that process of kind of not being very good at something because we've not done it, right the way through to the other end where we've been kind of practicing a particular skill relentlessly, so that we eventually become an expert and kind of increase our confidence level. Now, the one thing you might have noticed here with this particular graph is that, yes, our confidence level has risen, but it's still not at the same level as it was when we actually first sang karaoke. But this confidence level that we're at now is much more of a kind of a barometer of what our skill level and ability and our kind of confidence levels in conjunction with that is kind of more accurate there for us as well. So what all this kind of Dunning-Kruger effect and what we've kind of been illustrating here with this karaoke example reflects to is the fact that in order to kind of know what we're good at, and on the flip side, not know what we're not good at, we kind of have to look outside of ourselves and not really trust ourselves in a really strange way. So we kind of need to make sure that we are looking outside of ourselves. So with that in mind, we've got another exercise here. So pen and paper at the ready, because I want you to, first of all, I want you to jot down 3 people who know you well. So the reason why we've kind of written there who know you well, not three people that you know well, is because it needs to be people who kind of got to know you over a period of time, and kind of who kind of know you, know kind of your characteristics, know your skill level, know a lot of your traits, your personality traits as well. Now, naturally, many of us will be thinking, let's kind of jot down a family member, maybe a parent, maybe a spouse, maybe a sibling. Now, you want to be making sure that you are trying to pick somebody who is going to have some level of impartiality, albeit they're not going to be that fully impartial, because it needs to be somebody who knows you well. So maybe if you are kind of picking a parent or a spouse, perhaps they might be kind of too close to you to even kind of find a potential fault or something that you can maybe work upon. So you want to be maybe picking out somebody, perhaps someone like a family friend, or maybe a neighbor, or even someone like kind of a previous or a current work colleague might be useful as well. Now, once you've kind of written down these three people who know you well, I want you to then write down these 3 sentence starters. And where you can see the X's here, I want you to kind of replace these X's with your name. So you can kind of fill in the blanks here. So I always ask Rikesh for help with. Annie knows a lot about. You can always ask Rikesh too. And kind of, this is something for not for us to complete. This is something for the people that we have written down, those three key people who are going to be completing these sentences for us. So if I kind of run this on a little bit, and feel free to kind of jot down these 3 sentence starters, because it's going to be kind of paramount when it comes to giving these 3 sentence starters to each one of those 3 people that you made a note of. So we've got kind of examples here of what those 3 people can sort of mention. So it could be, I always ask Rikesh for help with having new ideas. It could be that Maisie knows a lot about using data. You can always ask Annie too, and then kind of fill in the blanks there with all of them. Now, the one thing I'd really suggest with this is not to kind of feed any answers to those 3 people who know you well. So you want to kind of set up a time where you're able to either meet up in person, if that's possible, as I fully appreciate in these current times. If that's not possible, then maybe just kind of run this through kind of a video call, maybe kind of send them a message saying, right, these are 3 kind of sentence starters that I'd really love for you to kind of take time and think about, and kind of and let us kind of catch up over a video chat, maybe in a week's time or a few days' time perhaps as well. Now, what will happen is, once you get these kind of answers back from each one of these 3 people to all 3 of these sentence starters, is that you'll start to see some level of kind of correlation forming as to, okay, a lot of people are saying I'm good at this, and that will really help us to kind of cement kind of in our own minds what we're actually good at, because we're asking people out on the outside, because essentially they're kind of more trustworthy than what we would be internally as well, as we kind of saw with the Dunning-Kruger effect. So this is a really important kind of exercise to kind of go through when it comes to kind of identifying what you are good at in particular as well. So feel free to kind of take this particular exercise, take it away with you, and kind of, once you've got those 3 people listed down, feel free to kind of send them over these 3 sentence starters, and then let them come up with the answers, and then and let them kind of feed them back to you, and then you'll be able to kind of see a lot of kind of trends and correlations form for yourself in terms of what you are good at. So let's have a quick check-in with some questions before we go on to the final kind of element, the final circle of identifying our fulfilling job role, or on a wider scale, our career as well. Okie doke. So I can't see any questions coming in at the moment. So hopefully you've all been kind of jotting down those 3 sentence starters, and that's something which you're going to be taking away. I'm going to be implementing that particular exercise with those 3 people who know you well. So now that we've kind of looked at something that you enjoy doing, we've also then looked at something that you are, something that you're good at. And that something that you're good at is going to be through the eyes of somebody else, because we can't necessarily trust ourselves, as we saw with the Dunning-Kruger effect. Let's actually now focus on the final element here which is something that people value. So something that there's a market for out there. And if there's a market for out there, then it's going to be something that somebody is going to be willing to pay you for, which is really important, because as we saw, if it's just something that we enjoy doing and something that we're good at, but nobody's going to pay us for it, then it just kind of stays in that bracket of being a skilled hobby. So we want to make sure that we're getting this final element here. Now, before we kind of look at a few questions that we can ask ourselves with this, it's always nice to kind of look at a few examples of people who have kind of gone through this, either from a business aspect and also through kind of working in a particular job, working for somebody. So kind of working kind of those two kind of roles, whether it be self-employed as a company and setting up, or as working for somebody as well. So with that in mind, let's have a look at a few case studies here. So we've got one which is Abigail's story, first and foremost, which is Abby, you can see, works in technology at a large entertainment business, but changed her career to focus on baking cakes. So Abby's Pantry started in London and has now moved to Edinburgh. So if we kind of look at Abby's kind of three elements here, this framework that we've been working through. So something that Abby enjoys doing is she enjoys baking cakes. Fantastic. Now, how does she know that she was good at it? Well, she actually took a lot of her baked goods into the offices. So she took her cakes and biscuits and everything that it can be, everything else that she was kind of baking in her kitchen. She took them into work, and she was getting great feedback from her colleagues. So she knew from other people that she was actually good at that. And then what she did was she evaluated, is this something that there is a market for out there that somebody would be willing to pay me for? And she decided to decided to take a jump and actually decided to create Abby's Pantry, as you can see here, which started off in London and has now moved to Edinburgh there as well. Now, if we look at another example, we've got Claire and Rachel. So their story is that Claire, who was a barrister, and you've got Rachel, who was a stenographer. They decided, right, let's kind of join up forces and actually set up a website called How Do I Do, which is, as you can see here, a directory of wedding suppliers and wedding planners for all couples. Now, for them, they really enjoyed kind of recommending kind of wedding suppliers, whether it be kind of caterers, DJs, anything else in between, photographers, videographers, etc. So they enjoyed doing that aspect. Now, they knew they were good at it because they were getting a lot of kind of friends, family, and people in their support network who they were kind of giving them kind of names of great contacts. They were getting that feedback saying, yes, this person was fantastic for our wedding. Everything went really, really well. So they were getting that kind of feedback, and they thought, right, well, it's something that we enjoy doing, something that we're good at. Is there a market out there for us to actually kind of maybe set up some sort of kind of directory? So that's something which actually led to them setting up their own websites, which is a directory there as well. Now, if we actually switch gears with another case study here, which is not necessarily about kind of setting up a business, which is more about kind of finding kind of a fulfilling role within kind of a wider organization. That's kind of what we have here with Shaquille's story. So with Shaquille, at the point of kind of going through this framework process, he was actually made redundant. So he thought, right, let me kind of take a little bit of a step back, make some evaluations about what I enjoy, and kind of go through this framework in turn. So the thing that he enjoyed about working the most was actually, as you can see here, working independently. And if we recall back to the first exercise that we did, that was one of those phrases in that list of 8 that we actually saw earlier on. So that's the thing that he enjoys most about working. Now, in terms of what he's good at, in terms of his strengths, he identified human resources, or HR for short. So he identified that, and the reason why he was able to kind of understand that was one of his strengths is that he was getting a lot of feedback and kind of references and recommendations from kind of previous HR work that he had done in his previous roles as well. So with that information, he thought, right, well, how do I actually implement this into something that there's a market for out there and something that people will pay me for? So through that, as you can see here, he became a HR consultant, and he's actually done really well off the back of becoming a HR consultant. As you can see, he started off a hashtag on LinkedIn called #CatchUpOverCoffee. and he's also kind of grown his connection base on LinkedIn, which is now actually kind of serving him as well and actually helping to find him clients as well. So they're just kind of a few stories. It's always kind of nice. I always kind of find it interesting to kind of look at kind of other people, how they've done things, how they've kind of used kind of something that we are kind of going through with this kind of framework in turn as well. So it's always nice to kind of have a look at those kind of stories there. Now, in terms of this final element of something that people value, something as a market form that people pay you for, we want to kind of have a look at 3 questions here. So the first question, essentially, which is the wider question, is who would value what I'm good at and what I enjoy? All right. So we want to essentially answer 3 questions. So which job or profession requires the skill set that I have? Which businesses could use your skills? And it's not a case of just writing down maybe two or three particular businesses. Feel free to kind of make a really long list of businesses that you feel that might kind of be able to use your skill set that you have as well. And then also finally think about which kind of groups of people, which kind of organizations might be able to kind of pay you to do this particular role and utilize these particular skills that you have. I think it's very important to kind of go through each one of these in turn, and essentially it just becomes kind of a vetting process going through each one of these individually, because I think it's very important to make sure that not only are we doing something that is in line with what we enjoy doing, as we explored with the first element. We looked at kind of the second element, which is something that we are good at. But we also had that third element, which is, as you can see here, something that people value. That's something that people will pay you for as well. Now, a lot of the time, it might be that we just have to kind of take a little bit of an educated risk at times. We do a little bit of kind of market research, a little bit as we saw with the likes of Abby's Pantry and the likes of kind of Claire and Rachel as well, and even with Shaquille to another degrey in that sense. But it's very important to kind of do a little bit of homework, and this is that kind of homework phase. In turn, it's really important to kind of go through each one of these questions. Now, in terms of kind of resources out there, there's a lot of kind of resources in terms of kind of finding jobs. So you can actually have a look on Google. You can actually see a screen grab of that here. We can actually just kind of search for jobs directly through Google. So you can see kind of listings here on kind of the left-hand side. And then if you actually click onto or hover onto one of them, you will actually see kind of a bit more information, such as kind of job description on there as well. And then if you are thinking about applying for a position, then you can click onto kind of apply on, and then you can kind of select the particular job site. Or it might be kind of it might be that you can apply on something like LinkedIn as well. Now, LinkedIn in particular is something which I can't sort of recommend enough from a personal point of view, because LinkedIn is something which I set up quite a number of years ago myself, just kind of a personal LinkedIn profile. And on my LinkedIn profile, I literally just added in kind of my grades at kind of school, college, university. I just kind of put them all on there, and then also put on kind of any kind of work that I had, so just kind of part-time work whilst I was that kind of the likes of kind of sixth form as well. And through just purely having that personal profile, that information there on the LinkedIn platform, in terms of kind of what job role that I'm currently doing, I was actually headhunted for kind of the very first time, which is fantastic. And for me, gave me a great kind of buzz and a great kind of feeling more than anything else. So I can't recommend LinkedIn enough, and it's a great way to kind of connect with people, especially if you're looking to kind of get into another industry. I know for me, when I got headhunted, I was looking to kind of get a foothold in the career ladder, kind of quite recently after I'd graduated from university, and that was something which really kind of helped me, as I was at that time I was actually doing a little bit of kind of voluntary work experience at another kind of law firm, and then I kind of got headhunted for a kind of a paralegal position. I kind of progressed up the kind of ladder from there as well. So I can't personally recommend it enough. I think it's a fantastic tool, and now kind of that platform's actually developed whereby you can actually apply for jobs on there as well. And also also kind of connect with other people in terms of if you are looking to kind of work for a particular organization, you can maybe reach out to certain individuals if they have kind of the certain settings to allow you to kind of do that at times, and just kind of get involved and be very kind of engaged with a lot of kind of postings that other people put up, especially if it's something that you want to kind of work within, especially if it's a brand new industry. Now, if you kind of looking to work in the same industry as what you currently have, feel free to just kind of add those kind of connections, a little bit like kind of Shaquille, where he's kind of built up his connection base in turn. And then once you've kind of done that, you can start to kind of reach out to people. You're kind of making yourself known and visible, albeit kind of virtually. And that could maybe later down the line, when it could lead to maybe opportunities, such as kind of meeting some of these individuals at networking events, if and when possible as well, at certain times. And sometimes you might have kind of heard of that term. It's not always about kind of everything that you have on your CV. It's not always about just what you know. It can be a little bit about who you know as well, and being in the right place at the right time, putting yourself into that kind of position as well. Now, other resources that can really help you out is the likes of Do It and Charity Job. So both of these websites, and I'm sure Annie's going to be linking all of these websites to you in the live chat. So Do It and Charity Job are websites where you can kind of have a look at volunteering opportunities. Now, when it comes to volunteering opportunities, they will be kind of dependent upon your personal circumstances, because a lot of volunteering opportunities are typically going to be unpaid. So it'll be really kind of dependent upon what your current kind of financial circumstances are. But for me, I was fortunate enough when I was kind of looking for a position when I graduated university, that I was fortunate enough to kind of to take up a volunteering opportunity, and that led me to getting a paid role, and then kind of getting headhunted, as I mentioned a moment ago as well. So definitely kind of check out some of those resources. There's a lot more online as well. I'm sure you could probably easily kind of Google as well. So with that in mind, let's have a look at some kind of steps to reach your goal as well. So in terms of kind of reaching your goal, you can kind of fill in these kind of sentence starter blanks here. So today I'm going to continue with today's fantastic Careers Jam event, and kind of and tune into the later sessions that are running today. Next week I'm going to, so that could be next week I'm going to sign up for a job site. Maybe you kind of go through that process. This month I will have touched base with those 3 people who know me well, and kind of gone through those sentence starters and evaluated my top 3 strengths. And this year I will have, and then kind of fill in the blanks there as well. I think it's really important to kind of set yourself those mini milestones. And then you can always check in with that. And with these kind of mini milestones, it's very important to kind of have that deadline set, because that kind of really kind of can help us stay on track and stay on course in terms of fulfilling a particular task within a particular given time that we've set as well. So with that in mind, let's have a final check-in with questions from you all. Okie doke. So I can't see any questions. So hopefully you've all been kind of jotting down some notes as we kind of progress throughout the course of this session. So with that in mind, let's actually have a check-in to see what your next steps are. So in terms of your next steps, feel free to explore the Google Digital Garage website. I'm sure Annie again will be popping the link to the Google Digital Garage website into the live chat. So feel free to kind of explore the website. There's some fantastic resources on there. Feel free to have a look at the webinars page. You can have a look at the upcoming schedule of webinars and a variety of topics. And also feel free to check out the online courses section of the Google Digital Garage website as well. Now, with that in mind, I really hope that you found this webinar session useful. If you did, then both myself and Annie would appreciate a little bit of feedback to let us know what you enjoyed in particular. So we've got a short feedback form here, which is at goo.go google.com/digital garage feedback. And it'll be a short form and it won't take you long to complete, but it really gives us kind of valuable feedback going forward into future Google Digital Garage sessions that we run as well. And feel free to also share kind of information about these kind of resources, such as kind of the online courses that are available for you to kind of complete at no charge on the Google Digital Garage website. And remember, it's the Fundamentals of Digital Marketing course, which I mentioned at the very beginning of this webinar session, where once you've completed this course, remember it's available at no charge. You'll also receive a certificate from Google at no charge as well. So feel free to kind of share that kind of resource with your friends, your family, your wider network. If you're going to do so on social media, feel free to kind of include our kind of hashtag on screen here, which is hashtag Digital Garage there as well. So feel free to kind of do that, and feel free to kind of just kind of explore that kind of framework that we've been kind of going through. I'm sure you might kind of have a lot more kind of questions than what you actually came in with for this webinar session, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's always a good thing to kind of have that, because it's kind of sparking a little bit of kind of creativity and kind of helping us to kind of navigate our way within our career. As I mentioned, we all have those different experiences, and we're kind of all kind of learning as we're kind of progressing along as well. So with that in mind, I want to say a massive thank you to our webinar partner today. I want to say Founders for Schools. I want to say a massive thank you to Annie, who I'm sure will agree has been a wonderful chat moderator as well. And also I want to say a massive thank you to you all for tuning in for this Google Digital Garage webinar session. Enjoy the rest of today's event, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.